Kazakhstan is prepared to combat coronavirus. The government takes measures to prevent the risk of the spread of the virus in the country. Evacuation of citizens from Wuhan, China continues. The European Parliament spoke highly about Zhusan and Rusafa operations. Find out about how Kazakhstan shares its experience in repatriation of its citizens from the conflict zones. Kazakh students will start mastering martial arts. Kazakh Kures will be introduced in the educational program in Kazakhstan. 8 citizens of Kazakhstan have been evacuated from the Chinese city of Wuhan. Special boats which belong to Russia and Uzbekistan brought the people to Tashkent and Tyumen, where they will be under medical supervision for about 2 weeks. According to the press service of the Foreign Ministry, all of the evacuees were thoroughly examined before boarding the boats. There are no reports on the signs and symptoms of the virus at the moment. Kazakhstan had evacuated 83 of its citizens from Wuhan. Following the examination of health conditions of the people, they were placed in quarantine for 14 days at an anti-infection building in a multidisciplinary hospital that is specially allocated for quarantine purposes. The government announced that Kazakhstan is fully prepared to combat the coronavirus. More than 3.5 billion tenge was allocated from the state reserve for face masks, thermal imagers and medicines. The country has also taken organizational measures to reduce the risk of the spread of the coronavirus. For example, Kazakhstan has cancelled a visa-free policy for transit passengers from China. The work of the Kazakh part of the Khorgos International Center for Cross-Border Cooperation was also suspended. Meanwhile, the coronavirus will not affect the Open Skies Agreement. This year, 14 new airlines will fly into Kazakhstan from Qatar, Poland, Oman, Belarus, Malaysia, Romania, the United Arab Emirates and Kuwait. This has been reported by Kazakh Deputy Prime Minister Roman Skliar to President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev today. The minister also said that negotiations are ongoing with aviation authorities from Switzerland, South Korea, Singapore, Latvia and Lithuania. Coronavirus outbreak has killed 492 people. The total number of confirmed cases is more than 24,500 people, whereby most of them were placed in a new emergency hospital for the coronavirus-infected patients. The hospital was built in 8 days. The geography of the spread of coronavirus is expanding. To date, the confirmed cases have been reported in 25 countries. At least 10 people on board a cruise ship in Japan have tested positive for coronavirus. Authorities had to isolate 3,700 passengers and put them into quarantine. Initially, the ship was supposed to complete its 14-day itinerary, but it is now in a dock off the coast of Yokohama. Passengers and crew members have to remain on board as authorities wait for the result of 100 samples. Doctors said that anyone could be infected with coronavirus without showing any symptoms. They are also worried about the unknown number of passengers who have disembarked the cruise ship. The United States is willing to lift the sanctions against Iran as soon as possible and help the country improve its economy should Tehran decide to comply with the requirements previously announced by Washington. The statement was made by President Donald Trump in his State of the Union address as he spoke to the Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives. He called on Iran to abandon nuclear weapons and stop the spread of terrorism. Primary presidential elections have begun in the U.S. For a period of 6 months, the main political parties in the United States will have to choose their nominees for the main election that is scheduled for November 3rd. Within these 6 months, candidates will travel to 50 states to hold hundreds of public meetings. Based on the preliminary results in Iowa, the Republicans took the lead with 97% of votes, led by the current president. 3 Republican candidates will take part in the presidential race. There are currently 11 candidates from the Democrats that will compete for the presidency. 595 citizens of Kazakhstan were repatriated from the war zones in the Middle East based on the discussion at the conference in the European Parliament. The participants of the conference praised Kazakhstan's experience in conducting Zhusan and Rusafa humanitarian operations.
Мы рассматриваем это как
We consider this as a small step. This is only 5% out of 100. The task is not just to return the citizens, but it is also necessary to train them and to help them start new life. European Union countries have their own approach to humanitarian issues. However, Europeans are not very active in repatriating their citizens, except for children.
Oui, parce qu'en France, on a le même problème.
In France, we have the same problem with women who left for Syria, and most of them have become widows with children. The position of France is to repatriate the children first, and then consider each adult individually. Islam in France is often radical. However, in your country, it is more often moderate. I believe that the policy of peaceful coexistence of various religions in Kazakhstan, proclaimed by Nursultan Nazarbayev, also contributes to this reintegration. The conference participants were interested in the children's and women's adaptation, as well as the de-radicalization process of the militants, and they also asked about the process of collecting evidence of their guilt and participation in crimes. At the end of the conference, the participants agreed that Kazakhstan should share its positive experience with other countries that is experiencing the same issue.
Kazakhstan intends to expand its presence in the international e-commerce market, said Minister of Trade and Integration of Kazakhstan Bakhat Sultanov. According to him, the share of electronic commerce will be 10% of the total retail turnover of the country by 2025. In order to achieve that, Kazakhstan is actively working on cooperation with global electronic trading platforms. 16 Kazakh companies have already been registered on the Wild Berries platform, which is popular among consumers around the world. The companies sell over 590 Kazakh products on the platform.
В конце августа прошлого года заключено рамочное соглашение о сотрудничестве с Wildberries. В настоящее время проводится...
A framework agreement on cooperation with Wildberries was signed in the end of August last year. To date, negotiations are being carried out with a network of companies that plans to construct relevant logistics centers in Nur-Sultan and Almaty.
При поставке товаров, но и расширить канал сбыта казахстанских товаров.
The minister also said that members of the Eurasian Economic Union countries plan to introduce general rules for e-commerce. The system will significantly reduce the costs of local enterprises and also expand the distribution channels of locally produced goods to Russia, Belarus, Kyrgyzstan, Armenia, as well as Uzbekistan and the European Union countries.
Turkmenistan has started the first stage of construction of its electric power transmission line. The country plans to increase the production of generated electricity to 35.5 billion kilowatt-hours by 2030. Experts said that the electricity that will be produced by the future power transmission line will be exported to Pakistan and other South Asian countries through Afghanistan. The construction will be completed in August next year. The largest mosque in Central Asia will be opened in Dushanbe in March this year. The architectural project was developed with specialists from Tajikistan and Qatar. The building consists of 4 minarets and a 47-meter main vault. The project is estimated at about $100 million. Uzbekistan was ranked 4th in the list of world's fastest growing tourist destinations. In 2019, the growth of tourist traffic amounted to 27%. This was published by The Independent with reference to the United Nations World Tourism Organization. France remained the most visited country with more than 90 million tourists, followed by Spain with 83.8 million visitors. According to UNWTO, overseas trips reached 1.5 billion worldwide in 2019, which is 4% higher than in 2018. In 5 years, Uzbekistan plans to turn part of the dried bottom of the Aral Sea into a green garden. Thus, there will be pastures and forests, instead of sand and devastated lands. Specialists from all over the country have been reviving the vast arid areas for 3 years. The main desert trees, saksaul, are being planted using a special technique. Experts said that the roots of these trees solidify the soil, which prevents the formation of barkhan or sand dunes. A 10-year-old saksao tree can hinder the formation of the 10 cubic meter sand. Kazakhstan plans to follow the experience of its neighboring country. Kazakhstan plans to grow seedlings of desert and fodder plants in the coastal areas of the Aral Sea. In addition, the country intends to strengthen the work on conservation of biodiversity and development of fisheries in the Aral Sea.
Прорывной проект в этом – это, естественно, Казахстан, который на сегодня может сказать, что
This is a breakthrough project. We've managed to build a dam and cut out the North Aral Sea, which is populated by fishes that breed there. This can be evidenced by nearly 8,000 tons of caught and processed fish every year. Approximately 5 fishery resources processing plants were launched in the Aral region in 2019. Today, there is a great interest in the fishery resources.
5 цехов в Аральском регионе открыто новых по переработке рыбных ресурсов. Сегодня к рыбным ресурсам большой интерес.
Well-known bloggers, influencers, and the public have been called on to ensure the effective implementation of the modernization of Kazakhstan's identity program. This was announced at the meeting of the National Commission on the Modernization of Kazakhstan's identity program under the president in Akorda. The plan of the modernization of Kazakhstan's identity program for 2020 has been approved. All executive bodies should prioritize on the implementation of the program, including the pursuit of education and science, hard work, and the promotion of national and civilized values.
Pragmatizm дегенimiz не? Ол ең бірінші біздің ұлттық байлығымызға
What is pragmatism? First of all, it is to take national responsibility very seriously. If a citizen cannot take responsibility for his or her life, family, life in general, and world, then he or she cannot be responsible for the wealth of the state. Therefore, the key issue in our mind is to regain our family values.
Сондықтан біздің санамызда ең негізгі мәселе өзіміздің отбасымыздан басталатын құндылықтарды жөндеуіміз керек.
The words of Edification of Abai will be republished in the Netherlands in conjunction with the 175th anniversary of the great Kazakh poet. The fundamental work was translated from Russian to English and then from English to Dutch several years ago. However, the book was published in limited copies. This year, the Kazakh embassy in The Hague decided to republish it with the added content and improved design. A creative team of translators and ambassadors of the two countries had written an extensive introduction that explains the cultural and historical context of the work.
Нидерландцам через понятные им исторические ассоциации, через...
The book will tell the Dutch readers about Abai and why he remains to be such a great person and the pride of every Kazakh. This will be told in the book through history which the Dutch can relate to, and the information about the 19th century. We tried to tell about the relevance of his words, thoughts and calls, about an exemplary person. We explain reasons of why we continue to read his works in the 21st century.
Почему в 21 веке мы продолжаем к нему обращаться?
Ну, считаю, что Abai, в первую очередь, известный философ.
First of all, I think that Abai is a famous philosopher, author and poet. He clearly understood the wealth of Kazakh people and the significance of the wealth for the entire world.
Какое богатство уже есть у казахского народа и какое значение это имеет в мире.
Kazakh Kures, which is a type of Kazakh wrestling, will be introduced in the educational curriculum of the country. A pilot project involving students from the capital city and Mangistau region will begin in September this year. The students will take classes on the national sport. Special methodological programs are being developed while teachers' preparation is being conducted.
Mangistau облысы Kazakh Kures Federasyasının президенті сол
One of the main innovations this year is the inclusion of Kazakh Kures in the school curriculum, which will be in September. We are very pleased that Mangistau region actively supported the proposal to introduce this sport into the general educational program. In the next 5 or 6 years, this class will become a part of the elective educational program.
Жалғасын тауып жатыр. Алдағы 5-6 жылдықта вариативті сабақ ретінде біз өткізе тұрамыз.